Welcome to Global Studies with Miss Pritchard. This video is for Global 2 students. It will cover the Enlightenment in Europe, which went from about 1600 to 1800. All right, remember when we talked about the scientific revolution and we talked about dominoes, how one idea leads to another and another and another? Well, the Enlightenment is another set of dominoes. It all starts with prosperity. People have more money and more wealth, and that's due to the increase in trade after the Crusades, which brings about the Renaissance, and then exploration, and a lot of that money that they get from the trade and from exploration gets invested in education, and that's where we get the scientific revolution. And once you get the scientific revolution, it doesn't take long for those ideas to trickle into government and the idea that you don't need a king to tell you what to do. So the Enlightenment is a time when individual rights become important. People no longer have to struggle to survive, so they want to enjoy life and they don't want to be told what to do. They get art, which is a reflection of that and the enjoyment and the prosperity in life, because you don't worry about beauty in your life when you don't have enough food to eat. So art, very much a human creation, and it shows joy and prosperity. All right, the government. You have two main views. The first is Thomas Hobbes, who believes that people are naturally selfish and evil, so you have to have a strong ruler to keep them in line with strict rules and harsh punishments. It's very similar to the legalists in ancient China, and remember Emperor Qin used the legalist method to unite and maintain order in China. Then you have Locke. He believes people are naturally or inherently good and that they're born with natural rights, and those rights are life, liberty, and property, and it is the government's job to protect those rights. Not to punish people, but to protect the rights. That is a key difference between Locke and Hobbes. All right, and these new views are based on reason. Scholars and philosophers start taking the ideas of logic and reason from science and applying it to the study of people and government. And with that, you can see how governments operate and how to get people to do what you want. So the new ideas of government are developed, and that leads to revolutions in the American colonies, and then it's followed very quickly by revolutions in Haiti and France. All right, humanism of the Renaissance becomes the human rights during the Enlightenment, and human rights are still a key idea to this day. Human rights are the idea that everybody has the right to life, that they have the right to liberty, that they have the right to security and living without fear. And there are a lot of governments today who don't follow that view. That is why we get civil wars, and that is why you get organizations like Amnesty International and the United Nations going in and looking, are these basic human rights being protected or violated? During the Enlightenment, you also see women's rights becoming an issue. Up to this point, men had almost always had the power. There are very, very few women who rule in the ancient world, and even today, there aren't that many women in leadership roles throughout the world, even though they make up 51% of the population. One of the main proponents of women's rights was Mary Wollstonecraft. You might know of her daughter, who wrote Frankenstein. And the idea that knowledge leads to progress and improvements in society is another key idea of the Enlightenment. All right, the power of words. The salons of Paris become the center of Enlightenment thought talking about the ideas increases education and it creates more ideas. So see, we're back to those dominoes, one leading to another and another and another. And you get Diderot. He creates the encyclopedia, which gives everyone access to knowledge. And your traditional powers, like the Catholic Church, really, really hated this because they wanted to be the ones to tell people what was right and what was wrong. They didn't want everybody to be able to read it. Remember when we talked about the Protestant Reformation? They didn't want everyone to have a Bible because they didn't want everyone to know what the Bible said. They wanted to control that. If you control the knowledge, you control the power. You did get some monarchs who offer religious freedom or educational reforms, and they do this in an effort to maintain their power. They saw what had happened to Charles I in the English Civil War. They didn't want to lose their heads, so they're willing to give a little to keep a majority of their power. And the legacy. Why is it that we study all of this? Well, it's because this is the way the world is today. So keep in mind, one of the things you can never take back are ideas. They're very similar to words or education. Once you say words, you can't pull them back in and unsay them. They are out there, those ideas, those thoughts. If they're positive or they're negative, they are now out there. Education is the same way. Once you have an education, nobody can take it away from you. Also, the Enlightenment is the foundation of our worldview today. Most people believe in individual rights and human rights and the idea that democracy is the best form of government. And in fact, that is why so many people moved to the United States, because it established the basic beliefs of the Enlightenment. And it all goes back to the idea that stupid people don't revolt, so the more you learn, the more you want freedom. I could go on and say that the whole point of high school is so that you can go out and control your own world, make your own destiny. So, that is it for the Enlightenment. Make sure you have the notes in your notebook. You should be using the Cornell note forms, and I will be checking them before the end of the week.